Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, we will cover one of the most highly anticipated matchups in the world of chess. Since Magnus Carlsen no longer was the world champion. That is the matchup between the current world champion, the young superstar from India, GUKESH, the youngest ever, versus Magnus Carlsen himself. They have not played a classical, traditional, long chess game against each other until today. We are going to Stavanger in Norway for Norway Chess. Norway Chess is a tournament with a unique format. 6 people in 2 different sections, men and women, and they compete in a style where if a game ends in a draw, they then play an Armageddon, which I will get into further in this video. None of that is important. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this all-time classic between Magnus and GUKESH. 2 hours per player, because that's what you need when you play high-level chess. Magnus opens the game with d4, and already as early as move 2, yes, 2, surprises the opponent with the move knight to c3. Now, normally here at the highest level, the players are playing the d and c pawns together and then putting the knights out. Magnus goes knight c3, counterintuitive, not putting the pawn in front of the knight, controlling the center, but GUKESH very easily plays this. You will never see this at the highest level of the game. It's a pretty decent opening for most people, but not at the highest level. They play certain meta strategies, and then Magnus going for a fusion, a London system, knight c3 with bishop f4. His idea was to throw GUKESH off. Why? You see, GUKESH recently played for a world championship. He won the world championship. Anybody watching this, whether you're a longtime chess fan or you're a new chess fan and just a fan of regular sports, you know in a training camp, you learn a lot of things. And in chess, when you learn a lot of things, you don't always get to use those things. So Magnus knows GUKESH has a lot of things that he studied, and he wants to make him unfamiliar. Bad news strikes really early. GUKESH plays something that has never been played before. If you look at the opening database here, I mean, it's been played before, but like less than 1% of the time. Normally, black is playing a6, e6, taking on d4, not knight c6, because there's, you know, some stuff like this. GUKESH plays bishop g4, and immediately, Magnus is thrown off. GUKESH with the first strike, a little jab, a little left-handed jab right on the nose. That doesn't break anything, but just a little warning shot that he's here and he's ready to go. Now, the most principled move here for white is actually to play pawn to f3, kick out the bishop. As you can see, but the board changing to a different color, that's not what happened. And, you know, in many positions, white tries to get a position that looks like this. But instead of that, Magnus plays bishop e2, bishop to e2, and GUKESH takes the bishop. And Magnus, again, can take with the queen or the knight, but he brings his other knight back this way, which is so counterintuitive. Like, who does that? He moves the knight, he's breaking all the principles. And then he went to the confession booth. At Norway Chess, they have a confession booth. If you ever watch the live streams where the players go during the game where nobody can hear them, and they give you their thoughts on the game. It's a very interesting thing. It's never been done before. You know, over the last few years, it's gotten more popular. And Magnus said, and I quote, he took the wussiest approach possible. He played like a wuss. And he did that because he knows GUKESH is well prepared. So he wants to minimize the risk. And he takes a very simple approach here. Puts this knight on f3. Puts this pawn on c3. It's kind of like he's playing a London. We got any London players in the comments? Anybody watching this? This knight is going to go to g3, which is what he's about to do in a moment. Knight to g3. And, you know, the easy move here with white is to castle, right? Like you castle short. But the thing is, it's not that comfortable of a move, to be honest. Because you kind of don't really know where the future is in the position, right? But what Magnus is doing is similar to what some teams do in team sports. He's trying to set a pace of the game. He's trying to play it slow. Moves like queen to e2. Just a kind of general improving move. By the way, time is ticking. After 2 hours, You lose on time. In this format, you have to make it to the 40th move to gain 10 seconds every move. That is the format. Gukesh plays h6. h6, a very Gukesh-style move. Ideas like g5, pushing the pawn in front of the king, arguing this bishop is poorly positioned. Magnus here thinks for 15 minutes and plays rook to d1. And at this point, Magnus went to the confession booth again and talked about a sequence here which could have went like this. g5 attacking the bishop, bishop to e5, knight d7, knight to h5, f6, kicking out the bishop to g3, queen to e8, knight to d2, defending the knight, queen to g6, and then here white can play something like a castles, f5, h3, and Magnus thought this position was interesting and in the balance. The computer thinks that actually, after this long sequence, black is doing well, but what's interesting about his confession is that if Gukesh had gone for this, the move h4 here is actually extremely powerful and shows you, anybody that wants to learn from Magnus, why not castling when your opponent has castled is actually sometimes a good idea. You can delay castling because you have attacking chances, especially and particularly if the opponent moves the pawns in front of their king, okay? Which is why Gukesh goes over here. This is the best move, by the way. These guys are playing, at this point, 99% accurate. Gukesh going over here, Magnus plays a3. One very fascinating idea that Gukesh had here, he could have offered a queen trade, damaging his own pawn structure, but opening up the b file. Not right away, because he would just straight up lose a rook, but in the long run, these pawns are actually very useful to clamp the position, even though they're doubled and isolated on the edge of the board, breaking traditional chess wisdom. Anyway, none of that happens. Magnus plays h4, stopping g5. Gukesh is hanging out on a4. And white has run out of ways to make any sort of progress except for the move knight to e5. Any London player knows that is what you're supposed to do. So Magnus puts the knight on e5, makes the trade, targeting the knight. Maybe he has ideas like knight h5. Actually, white can generate an attack here very quickly. Queen g4, knight h5, rook h3, rook over. I mean, just a few moves. And this is the way you need to play chess. You got to think sequentially, 1, 2, 3 moves ahead, not just I move my queen here and it gets taken in one move. All right? Knight to d7, bishop back to f4, and Gukesh does in fact offer that trade of queens. Magnus is Magnus. He doesn't want an easy game like that. He plays queen to f3. Now he really can't castle. You cannot castle through a check, keeping his pieces here. I cannot stress enough how much tension there is in this game. The world is watching. The 18-year-old newest world champion, Magnus, the lineal. Nobody took the title from him. He stopped playing. So many discussions. Like, what happens if these two played one game? What happens if they played a match? Is Gukesh the antidote, right? Have they ever played? Gukesh offering a trade of bishops. Magnus putting that knight on h5, targeting the soft spots near the black position. Gukesh trading the bishop, and now a very important moment. Gukesh here needs to take in the center. And the idea is to then rip it apart. Instead of that, he plays e5 first. And this move isn't the most accurate in the position, but it's obviously still doing the trick. If Magnus takes the pawn on e5 like this, Gukesh's idea is this: attacking the knight, attacking the pawn. Then if here, Gukesh is going to come back and win the pawn. And I don't think Magnus is going to have much. And if Magnus were to have gone here, that's very risky. And then Gukesh would come and get the pawn. So what does Magnus do? Correct moment to transition it to an endgame. Queen g3, threatening mate. And in a shocking turn of events, the world champion does not blunder, checkmate in one move. Take, knight back to g3, trade in the center, and pawn to c4. Now, you look at this position, you start thinking, what's going to happen in the long run? In the long run, white is a little bit better because black has a slightly strange structure. That pawn should have been an f-pawn. Black is going to try to bring these pawns forward. Magnus is going to rotate the knight. This pawn is going to be a building block in the center. And in the future, these boys, they're going to run together. They're going to run together, right? Does Gukesh have enough counterplay in the position? Does he have enough counter-attacking? These pawns are kind of off to the side. Will he be able to withstand Magnus's pawns advancing? So there goes the reroute. Gukesh ready to fully invest on this side of the board you can't quite take because of all the problems on the B file. Both guys have 20 minutes. This is the 25th move. They have 20 minutes for 15 moves, no bonus time. They will lose on time. When they cross the 40th move, they will only gain 10 seconds per move, not to lose on time. Magnus plays rook b1, GUKESH plays rook b8. I mean, you talk about a game that is literally being played on all three sides of the board. Like center, king side, queen side, Magnus playing f3, pushing in the center, GUKESH playing on the queen side. b4, Magnus striking right back, world champ versus arguable GOAT. Pawn takes b3, we got an en passant. Everybody oohs and ahs all over the world. Rook takes b3, GUKESH marching another pawn down. Every single resource is being utilized. Every single resource. The only thing that hasn't moved the entire game is these guys. They literally haven't moved. A takes b4, rook takes b4, and Magnus says, no rook trade. Magnus won an endgame in the World Championship of 2021, one of my best videos, dare I say. Game 6. After this, go watch it. It'll change the way you think chess can be commentated. 8-hour game. He had rooks and knights against Jan Nepomniachtchi. GUKESH plays rook e8, striking at the center pawn. Magnus protecting it with his king. GUKESH hunting the king down, and the king goes forward to d3, hiding next to the pawn and the knight, giving away the pawn on g2, giving away the pawn on a5. You watch this game with a computer, and the computer's going to tell you it's equal. It's going to tell you it's a 0-0 scoreless football tie. No shots on goal. But it's not that simple. GUKESH ready to hunt down the final pawns. Magnus says nope. GUKESH plays g5. Pawn takes, rook takes g5. The center has been protected. This pawn is now a passed pawn. That is what GUKESH is going to focus on as this game gets deeper into the endgame. Magnus goes rook a1. I'm going to be totally honest. I have no idea what the purpose of this move is. I think if rook was passive and he wanted to go down this way with some support with both rooks, GUKESH plays h5. By the way, 7 minutes for white, 7 minutes for black. They both have 3 moves. The pawn is 4 squares away from queening. Magnus plays rook a8. He's trying to trade the rooks, and after that, he's going to try to get an endgame where he has 2 in the center versus 2 on the side. 2 in the center, 2 in the side. A trade, and the king goes to h7, and there's the move e4. That is Magnus Carlsen's 40th move. The boys now have 5 minutes and 6 minutes to decide the fate of this game and the talking points of the chess world for the next 6 days until they play again, because it's a double round robin. GUKESH here takes the pawn. Magnus takes with the pawn. What do? Do you give a check and then push? He pushes. Magnus pushes. The knight's got to go. But if the knight goes, where does it go? Does it go here? Then e6. That might be wrong. Then the knight has to come back. Now Magnus got the pawn to e7. What is going on? There is a world in which you will have to sacrifice this knight for this pawn and try to, what does GUKESH do? He plays h4, e5, h3. He sacrifices his knight. Oh my goodness. The knight is taken. The pawn is promoting. f7. Both guys are going to make queens, but GUKESH, a horse has fallen during the battle. But the white king doesn't have sufficient defenses. Rook g3 check, the king moves. Both sides make queens, and it's a draw. But it's only a draw if you play rook to g2. And the point is, after this, the king does not escape because of queen c6, hitting the knight, and you cannot bring the queen back because you lose your rook. So GUKESH has to play rook g2, rook g3. He must have missed that because here he played queen h6, blundering at the last moment. And Magnus's king makes a run for it. But actually, if you look at this, where is the king going? It's completely swarmed. GUKESH needs to get to the king because otherwise his own king is dead. He goes here. Wait a minute. How do you get to the king now? You give a check, but how do you get to the king now? Wait a minute, there is a check. Queen b2, but the king runs up the board. But there's no more checks. If you give another check, I play king b4 and I get to c4 and your pieces are stuck back here. So the only thing you can possibly do is take the knight. But the attack is now over. And on this move and this move only, Magnus Carlsen is to move, and he goes queen h8 check. And let me tell you something. This might be the most clutch sequence of moves I've seen from Magnus Carlsen in all my time making content on this channel. He made that move with 4 seconds on the clock. 4 seconds. He had 2 checks. Queen G8, Queen H8. That's the best move. The king runs out. You got 14 seconds. What's the next check? Time is ticking. 14 seconds. 13, 12. You got to check with the rook. Now the black king is going to try to avoid some stuff. So he goes this way. What do? You got 14 seconds. What do you do here? Queen F8. King to E4. And in this position, this check wins the rook. But it's the wrong check. And Magnus went down to 5 seconds and played rook to E6 check. And Gukesh resigned. He resigned because anywhere he now moves this king, it's over. If you go to D5, Queen F5, I get to your queen, and then I get to your rook. Your king is in disarray. If King D4, Queen D6, King C4 only move, Rook E4 is mate. You lose the queen and then it's mate on the next move. Rook E6, if King D3, Queen F3, anywhere the king goes, it's a check, or you lose the queen. This was unbelievable. Both guys' kings went completely ballistic, ran around the board, all the way into the center. But at the end, only one king survived, and it was Magnus Carlsen. Oh my goodness, what a game. What a game! That was sick! I was like, you know, the thing is, this is a type of game that when you watch with an eval bar, it kills the mystique. I love watching Magnus games, particularly for this reason, because the eval bar never tells the whole story. Never. There's always resources, there's always ideas, practical decisions. This is not an easy endgame. Both guys have pawns that are going to run up the board, but one guy has 2 pawns that just look unstoppable, and they're already in the middle, and he knew that. That is why he went here. He might have felt that it was equal, but it wasn't in the end. Magnus Carlsen beats Gukesh. Let the talking points begin. Folks, that was the first game of the freaking recap, all right? Fabiano versus Hikaru. This is an unbelievable field. By the way, we also have Wei Yi and Arjun Erigaisi, all right? Like, these guys also... We also have them here. I mean, this is stacked. On the women's, we got Humpy versus Vaishali. We have Lei Tingjie versus Ju and Jun, previous world championship, not the one that just happened. We have Anna Muzichuk, and we have Sarah Kadem, who's also very, very strong. It's a very, very stacked field. Now, I'm going to take a sip of tea. My throat kind of hurts. And I'm going to show you this unbelievable game between Fabiano and Hikaru. All right. This game started with Hikaru playing the Slav defense. Yes, actual name. I don't know the last time that Hikaru played a Slav defense in a classical chess tournament. I straight up don't know. In fact, one of my favorite things to do during these recaps is to put this in and look it up. All right? To look up the last time Hikaru played a Slav defense in a classical tournament. It's been a minute. Been a minute. All right? He played it in the candidates, which I forgot about, but before that, it was 10 years. 10 years. He played it in the candidates, and before that, it was a decade ago. This is like his second Slav in 10 years. It's crazy. All right? And you know what Fabi does? Fabi's like, nope. Fabi does exactly what Magnus does. He's like, we're not, no, I didn't prepare for the Slav. I'm not playing into the Slav. You and I, Hikaru, are going to play a boring-ass game. Going to play the pieces to the squares. I don't care. Hikaru, though, no, he plays a very, he plays a very imbalanced game. There is a way in the Slav that you can play bishop f5 and be completely symmetrical. No, Hikaru gives away his light-squared bishop, puts all his pawns on light squares. Then he puts the bishop here. And at this point, Hikaru went to the confessional. He said, I'm bored. He said, I'm bored. And then he said, subscribe to GothamChess. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. Something like that. But he, he was like, I have no problems. And I think this game is going to be pretty boring and be a draw pretty soon. And he castled and kicked out the bishop and offered a bishop trade. And Fabi said no. And then Hikaru was like, no, really, I want a bishop trade. And Fabi was like, all right, I have no choice. And right around here, Hikaru was like, actually, I think my position is getting somewhere. I like what I've created. Same side pawn play, very, very boring compared to the CARLSEN game, which was, very imbalanced, super convoluted. Whereas this one's kind of like totally symmetrical pawn structure. Both guys don't have c-pawns, right? Fabi gets a knight on c3. Hikaru goes back to a7, obviously trying to conjure something up. Fabi just playing queen e2, just sort of waiting to see if Hikaru's going to do anything. But over the next few moves, what you're going to witness is a stalemate on the c-file. Hikaru making general improving moves, but it is Fabi who's going to get himself into a deep time trouble. Remember the time format. You get your time for the whole game, right? There is no bonus time, only on the 40th move, and it's only 10 seconds per move. Fabi has 16 minutes for 11 moves. And at some point, Hikaru, who has played Fabiano probably 40 times in classical chess in his career and recently has a very good record against him, sends this game to an endgame that looks like this. And this endgame, black can play forever. Why can black play it forever? He has horses. He has 2 horses. Whereas this bishop is not intimidating anybody. It's a bishop. And bishops are better than knights in endgames, but not this one. Black is rock solid. This pawn is not going to be exploited by the bishop at all. It's only black who can do anything. And Hikaru now activates a very, very nasty type of approach to the rest of this game, which is bleed the opponent's clock down and catch him. Catch him at a certain moment. Watch as Hikaru here bobs and weaves. Knight c6, knight back to b4. Overloading the nervous system, locking him down. Maybe one of the horses is going to get here. How are you going to defend that, Fabi? Maybe the horse is going to get here, and then when I trade, I'm going to land the knight in the middle. How are you going to defend that, Fabi? And Fabi, by the way, while you're thinking about my horses and they're doing a little horse dance in your head, how about this king, Fabi, which is going to run to the whole other side of the board? Maybe I'm going to go back to the middle, Fabi. Actually, maybe I'm going to go that way. How about I do that maneuver that Levy just said, to h5 and to e4? And Fabi's down to 20 seconds. Fabi's overloaded, right? He doesn't know what's coming next. And we get to the moment Hikaru brings the king, and he's ready to come in. That's going to be a problem. The knight is going to move, and Hikaru's going to come down. And after king to e1, knight back to a6, bishop d3, it looked like Fabi was doing his best. He was surviving. And then he went here. Nothing. It looks like nothing. It looks like nothing is going on. Fabiano needed to wait. He needed to bring the king to f2. For the first time, Hikaru has set up a lethal threat. He set up knight to e4. Clearing out a pawn, putting the knight on f5 with a double attack. Fabi had to move his king. Why? Because let's say black moves his king. And now you move your king. You go to e1. When knight e4 comes in, the knight needs to take the knight. The knight takes the knight, and the bishop stays on this diagonal. The bishop has to prevent the king from getting in. Fabiano goes here. Now, the bishop has to take the knight. That's the problem. And Fabi is losing because the knight hits both pawns and the king is getting in. You can't defend both sides of your position. And out of nowhere, 60 moves deep into the damn game, Hikaru has run into the white position. Fabi can't defend himself. His king is grabbing onto everything, but the horse is not going to be able to protect him either. The horse makes it to the other side of the board. But ultimately, it's too little too late. Hikaru eats just one pawn, clears the red carpet for this one, and beats Fabiano Caruana for like the 5th or 6th time in the last couple of years. The head-to-head score between Hikaru and Fabiano over the last few years is wild. It's wild. It's like, I think it's 5-1. I'm not even sure Hikaru lost the classical game, but he's definitely won 5 minimum, maybe 6. And Hikaru, with this win, is up to probably like 2808, 2809 unofficially, which is crazy. His highest ever rating was 2816. That was 10 years ago. 10 years ago. From his peak of 2816, Hikaru went down to like 2736. He lost, honestly, an inspiration for me, frankly, lost 80 rating points and still 2808. That is bananas. That is bananas. He is 25 rating points higher than the 3rd highest rated person in the world. He's only like 30 points. I mean, it's crazy. Hikaru's like, he's talking about retirement. He's 2808 FIDE. By the way, I have more games. First of all, I have more classical games. Humpy versus Vaishali, all right? What a start to the tournament. Magnus beats GUKESH. Hikaru beats Fabi with black. Insanity. Complete insanity. This one, a semi-Slav. Humpy playing very chill. By the way, she had a resurgence. She's the defending rapid champion of the world, which is epic. B3, knight to e4, and Vaishali, no respect. All right, I'm talking, there's plenty of respect, but you know, fighting chess right out the gate. And look at this, c5. This is like clamping on the queen side. Vaishali counterattacks. We have a trade. Knight goes to a6, knight to b4. Early on, I really liked black's position. I really liked how Vaishali was playing this. And she had a wonderful position. The bishop was going to b7 maybe even to a6. Trade this bishop. Long term, I mean, I really thought black had all of the attacking chances. And actually, I mean, you give me this position, I'll even play black here against Magnus. I might lose, but, you know, but unfortunately, it's never so simple. White just kept playing. White waited, improved her position a little bit. And I mean, the knight is just so powerful compared to the bishop, but you have to make it work. You have to make something happen, because if you don't, a player with as much experience as Humpy is going to stay around, keep making little improvements, and when you miss your chance, white is going to take her chance. Like, black is just improving. Vaishali's improving, is waiting, making improvements, but at some point you got to do something. You've been better for a little while, and you take one step back, and Humpy strikes with pawn to a5. She had nothing. She didn't have any resources the whole game. Knight was in the middle. Suddenly Vaishali's like, wait a minute, that's not what's supposed to happen. We trade, now the pawn's hanging. Now you try to trade it off. Take rook a4, bishop c3. The pawn's in the way, though. Otherwise, that bishop would be a monster. The knight is still better than the bishop. Rook back to a8, but now we're getting into a time trouble phase. This is not easy. Now we're in an endgame. Black is still better, but with this little pieces on the board, the knight is better than the bishop, but it's purely symbolic. Queen b5, bishop to a3, queen to f1, queen to b7. Oh my goodness. Vaishali gambles. Queen f1, 30 seconds on the clock. She goes all in. Queen b7, queen a1 attacking the bishop. 19 seconds. Bishop d6. And in this position, Vaishali plays queen a2. And queen a2 loses on the spot to bishop f8. Just mate. She just forgot about it. The bishop had to be here protecting this pawn against this queen, and the queen had to be here targeting this pawn with a check, stopping mate. Vaishali got here. Unstoppable force, immovable object. She didn't know what to do. She was considering probably f4, but she lost the game in one move. And that is how it goes sometimes. And if you could IRL uninstall the chess app, it's a brutal thing. I mean, she played very, very well. I really hope she gets to sleep tonight, because she had a really good position. She wasn't able to kind of put the foot on the gas as much as she would have liked, but an absolutely unfortunate ending. Now, the other games that I'm going to show you all ended in the Armageddon. So, Lei Tingjie, Ju and Jun. This is a matchup from the previous World Championship, like I already said. Not the one that just happened, but the one before it. So the way the Armageddon works, white has 10 minutes, black has 7. But if the game ends in a draw, black wins. And for scoring, winning is 3 points in a classical game. In Armageddon, it's 1.5. And 1 for the loser. So 3, 1.5, 1, 0. Norway Chess has this very unique format. So Ju and Jun is playing for a draw. She's playing for a draw, or of course to win. Lei Tingjie gets a 3-minute time advantage in this game. No bonus time. Listen, 3 minutes is a lot of damn time. It's a lot of time. Because what ultimately happens is black has to play light speed. Black has to play an opening they know well, an opening where they don't have to think. And oftentimes, because they're playing so fast, they actually get into a lot of trouble. And in this game, Lei Tingjie had a great position. Not only did Lei Tingjie have a great position, within a few moves, she was completely winning. Rook e1, rook a7. And I mean, black is just getting obliterated. Like, it looks like mate 900 different ways. Ju and Jun goes f6. By the way, you could take it. Because if there is rook e8 and just GG. The queen is lost. Everything is lost. Ju and Jun is like, Yo, I'm the 5-time world champ. I'm not just going to lose. Knight to e7. Lei is looking for the knockout. Black just like Humpy. I mean, this position is much worse than it was for black in the Humpy game, but for white, but she keeps playing. By the way, Lei, 3 minutes to 115. King h7, king g2, g5. She's trying, but slowly Lei locks down the black position, 153 to 46. Remember, black has no bonus time. Knight to b5, knight to f4, knight to g6, and the king is going to get hunted away from the pawn, defended by the bishop, and now it's easy. Now Lei can breathe a sigh of relief. There is no way to mess this up. She just has to not lose on time. She had to play bishop f8 and knight f4. Not easy to spot at all. Suddenly black is back in the game. Rook h5. Oh my goodness. Armageddon is crazy. King f3, king e2, 35 seconds to 34. It's anybody's game now. Rook h6, rook f4. It's a draw. No, it's not. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. In this position, Ju and Jun had knight takes d4. And then after pawn takes, rook and bishop versus rook is a draw. Maybe Lei would have flagged her. I don't think so. But now it's probably over. 2 pawns up. You can still flag your opponent. Or maybe not. 14 seconds, 18 seconds, like I said. You can beat your opponent on time. But she ultimately decides in a crazy scramble. Both sides basically IRL pre-moving. This was actually hilarious, by the way. You can't take it because it's stalemate. But rook h1 with 5 seconds on the clock, she resigns, and Ju and Jun wins. And I got 2 more Armageddons for you, by the way. Anna Muzichuk versus Sarah Kadam. This was a Spanish, much more pure type of system. This one was, and their classical game was also, this was a martial. Their classical game was a little bit, you know, they agreed to a draw pretty early. And this one actually also was equal for a long time. And white just had a more pleasant position. I mean, Muzichuk had a position that a grandmaster grinds forever and ever and ever. Pawn up. By the way, look at the time advantage. Gone by the middle game, but gone at what cost? The cost of a pawn, right? So would you rather be equal material but down 3 minutes or down a pawn? I don't know. I mean, it depends how much time is left on the clock. And Anna does what, you know, a professional does. She's going to try to win a queen and 5 versus queen and 4. And of all the matchups in this round, this one was probably the more straightforward. The classical game was kind of balanced for a little while, quickly drawn, and in this mode, she just pushed. She got a slightly better queen endgame where she was the only one asking the questions, but before you know it, queen b2 check. That means the pawn is getting to b6, the pawn's getting to b7. Black resigned. She just resigned. Why? Here. Queen is going to be stuck. I go here. Black has no moves. What's going to happen is the white king is going to slowly walk all the way. And then you go here. And then you're going to find a way to win. She didn't even want to flag her opponent. Nothing. So Anna gets the win in the Armageddon. Wei Yi versus Erigaisi. What a field. Wei Yi, Erigaisi, Gukesh, Magnus, Fabiano, Hikaru. I mean, oh my goodness, what a field. These guys had a little bit of a combative game in the classical. Nothing special, though. And again, Erigaisi trying to play with black for a win in the Armageddon, not trying to play some boring, wussy stuff. But, yeah, you look at the time advantage. Look at the time advantage. It's gone. Gone. 40 seconds up. You get 3 minutes extra at the beginning of the game. And what you sometimes see is the player with the white pieces doesn't capitalize. Now Erigaisi has more time. Erigaisi has more time, and he's playing for 2 results. A draw and a win is good for him. This happens sometimes. And what's going to happen ultimately is that the player with the white pieces will succumb to the pressure because you're going to feel like everything is spinning out of control. Then you're going to start taking more risk because you have to play for a win. D5. And ultimately, Wei Yi blunders. Queen D7. White is going to start losing the center pawns. And the rook. Bishop back to c2. You couldn't take it because you would lose your other bishop. Erigaisi clean. Chilling up 2 minutes now. And you can't play good moves with 15 seconds on the clock. Wei Yi does his best. I mean, he would play better moves than I would play. But ultimately, a5. And either Wei Yi lost on time here, or he resigned. Probably he lost on time. And that was the end of the first round. What an unbelievable day. What an unbelievable set of games. Epic, epic, epic stuff. Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru lead the open section. They both won. Humpy leads the women's. She won in classical. None of that matters. We got like 2 more weeks of chess. Magnus GUKESH, the epilogue of the World Championship, is done for now until their next game. I can't believe it. What a game. Hope you enjoyed the recap, and get out of here.